What's up, Bears fans? Your boy Coach T with Chicago Bears 360 back with another hot one for you today. Listen, y'all know I've said early on in the summer I'm going to be bringing you these hot guests. Today we have none other than Harrison Graham from Bears Now, Chicago Bears Now, over on YouTube. One of my favorite programs out there, one of my favorite guests, one of my favorite channels to watch. Listen, we're going to talk Bears football. We're going to get his perspective. We're just going to chop it up. You know what I'm saying? Catch up on Bears football. We're going to talk about pink nails and hard knocks and so on and so forth. Yeah, we're gonna catch up and keep it moving, man. Y'all know what's next. Cue the intro, Maestro. I'm gonna shut up. Let's go. Contra.
Life like chess, move to pieces, you know I roll in silence. On the road to them Benjis, I fill my teeth with diamonds. I'm high as fuck in the sky, you would've thought I'm pilot. I'm from Chicago, it get ugly, fill the streets with violence. Life like chess, move to pieces, you know I roll in silence.
Past, present, future. We bear down.
Just like that, we're back, Bears fans. None other than my guy, Harrison Graham, up on the show. Listen, we're going to work our way through this lag, technical difficulties. Harrison, how's it going, man?
I'm good, man. Love the intro. It's definitely a good vibe. Give me some extra juice coming into this. And I feel like this is long overdue, but also a perfect time to do this. There's so much going on. We're less than a month from the draft, so plenty to talk about.
As we bid farewell to Justin fans. Yeah, I know, guys, in the comments, we're already working on the updated intro, man. So, yeah, like you said, man, long overdue. Big fan of the program, big fan of the show. One of those shows that I kind of, when I have time, I peek in on. Of course, I hit you in the super chat. Hey, before we get into it, I gotta ask, how's our newest Bears fan doing? PJ doing over there, young Graham?
Yeah, he's good, man. We're actually throwing his first birthday party this weekend. He turns 1 in a couple weeks, but we got a couple busy weekends coming up, so this was the weekend that was free. He's doing great. Mama's doing great. So no, everything's good in the Graham household. It's you would think that having an infant going on toddler would be more chaotic than the Chicago Bears, but somehow that is not the case for anyone who has followed this football team and been on Bears Twitter the last couple of months. So plenty going on in my life these days.
Hey, that's good, man. We got to keep up with our guy, PJ. So, did you give him a Justin Fields jersey already?
I did, man. And listen, I think you know this. I'm sure, some of I see some familiar faces in the comments here as well that I see sometimes. I think that's kind of been lost in all this. Like, I like Justin a lot. I still do.
Right.
I just think the number one pick was too good of a situation. I don't think this episode needs to be about why they moved on from Justin. We've all given our angles to that and everything. But, yeah, man, like, I'm not going to, burn my Justin Fields jersey now or something like that. Like, I always respect Justin. I hope he does well. And, I think he's got a shot to play a lot in Pittsburgh. So I'm rooting for him.
Yeah, definitely. We've definitely moved on. Again, it's just a matter of updating all the title sequence and materials and stuff like that. But I was just curious if we were starting PJ out on Caleb Williams' jersey, or if he did indeed was part of the Justin Fields era. But speaking of which, you made reference to.
Yeah, we'll see, right?
Go ahead. No,
I'll say, yeah, I mean, maybe get him another jersey, but don't want to, I'm not going to pull a Danny Parkins and get a jersey before he's on the team. We'll see where it goes here in the next month or so.
Right. You made reference to raising toddlers. It seems like it's kind of like that on Bears X or Twitter these days, especially with the I don't know. Every week we catch on to something. This week it seems to be about painting fingernails and pink phones, man. And my followers know all the off the field character, quote unquote character stuff. related to Caleb Williams. You know, I've stayed away from it purposely because it's not football. It's not schematics. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't interest me at all. And then we were chatting back and forth today. Like it just makes, like, when it starts getting into that stuff, man, it makes it not fun to me. And so, you know, what's your take on all this madness? Because I'm still somewhat new to the game, man.
Well, first of all, I'll say this, and I just quote tweeted it with some laughing emojis. He was with his, and I'm sure you've seen this guy like at the pro day, you know, on these clips or whatever. He always, I think it's like his handler or something. He's always rocking a Lakers hat. I don't know if you know who I'm talking about, but he was with him, and there's a clip that's going around right now. You can find it on my Twitter, but he responds to it, the whole clip that's gone viral. He's got pink nails. Some people think he has lip gloss on, which I actually don't think he does, but that's neither here nor there. He responded to that and said, showed his fingernails, said, fingernails are clear, no polish. Lips are pink, but there wasn't gloss on. He said, your girl would love them, though. So he's having fun with all that, which I appreciate. And look, here's what I would say to anyone who has a problem with it. Does anything that he's doing detract from how he fits in with teammates, from how he's able to lead, and how he plays on the football field? If the answer to that becomes yes, then sure, that's a problem. But we haven't heard a single coach at USC, a single player at USC. No one has reported any of that being an issue. If anything, the opposite has been true, that his teammates love him, that his leadership is fantastic, that he brings guys together. You know, Ryan Poles and Matt Eberflus actually talked about the uniqueness of this NIL era, how he's been able to take care of his teammates. He's taken them to basketball games and bought them dinners and stuff like that. So I just think, like, let's focus on the stuff that matters. Like, can this guy come in here, hit the ground running, which I think the Bears, and I think you would agree regardless of the quarterback. I know you have different opinions, Jaden Daniels, et cetera. We can get into that. But whoever the quarterback is, I think the Bears have set up that person pretty well with what they've done personnel-wise. And look, I was in the camp. I probably would have changed head coaches, but if you're not, at least bring in an offensive staff that has some skins on the wall. And it seems like they've done that. I mean, it's no guarantee, but Waldron's experience, I loved the addition of, and I don't know why I'm drawing a blank here, the Carolina OC, Thomas Brown, who's the passing game coordinator. I loved that move. I thought that was big. So, yeah, I think whether it's Caleb, Jaden, whatever, as long as they mesh with their teammates and are focusing on football when football needs to be focused on, hey, you want to paint your fingernails? It ain't going to bother me, man. So if you can play and you can lead, that's all that really matters.
And for me, I simply just do not care. Like, I really don't care. It's all about the football for me. That's an important part. And then also, to your point, you know, kind of something happened with the Justin Fields situation, right? And the statement that DJ Moore said, business is business. For me, mentally something shifted where I'm not so much interested per se in certain aspects of reporting on it. I'm just interested in watching what plays out and reporting on it. I don't have, like, I'm not as invested as I was with Justin because of when things kind of started. I came on board with Justin. Now that things have kind of moved on and things have shifted for me in terms of becoming more of a media person, now I'm really only interested on reporting and tracking his progress, right? So you made mention of Caleb. Obviously, you made mention of kind of my take on the quarterback situation. I'm not a hardliner. I do believe Jaden Daniels is the most NFL ready, but I think for the fit for the city and probably to kind of prepare the fan base and galvanize the fan base, I'm rooting for Caleb Williams to be the pick. I know that's a hard stretch to bring us together, but I'm just rooting for the pick to kind of bring us together a little bit because I don't think we need another reason to be divided. But I wanted to mention this because if Caleb is obviously the obvious pick, you know what I'm saying, and the comparisons with Patrick Mahomes, my eyes and my focus shift to, if the comp is Patrick Mahomes, can Shane Waldron be his, like you mentioned, can he be his Andy Reid? That's the biggest concern for me now. What do you say about that part of it?
Yeah, I mean, look, that's a fair question, right? I think the Mahomes stuff, you see glimpses of that. I don't know if
Yeah.
there's a perfect comp for Caleb Williams. You see a little Mahomes, you see a little Kyler. You see, I think Nate Tice of The Athletic may have said this. He compared him to like a young Drew Brees, who was a much better athlete early in his career than people remember, but also a guy who does well in the quick game. And I do think that part of it will be something that'll be notably better than Justin. Is I think he'll operate the quick game much better. And I think that frustrated Getsy. And look, you know me, I'm not a Getsy guy, but I think he kept trying to force that out of Justin, and that just wasn't his game. And it just didn't work. I think Caleb, with his super fast release, the different arm angles, I think the screen game will be better as well. Now, obviously, things he's got to learn as a player is balancing when to chase the home run versus just taking the singles and doubles. But I think you would agree with this, and you're a bigger film nerd guy than I am. I've tried to dive into it more in the last few years, but I don't pretend to be JT O'Sullivan or any of these guys who have been doing it for years and years and years. But I think he kind of had to do it more than he wanted to last year. I mean, my biggest takeaway from watching USC, because you've got people out there who are just saying the guy just collapsed as a player. I disagree. I think my biggest takeaway from last year is this was one of the worst coaching jobs, probably the worst that Lincoln Riley's ever had. I mean, this is a guy that's been viewed as a potential NFL head coach. Like, living down here in Texas forever, it was, oh, the Cowboys should hire him. And last year I watched that film, and maybe Cliff Kingsbury infiltrated it some, I'm not sure, but they're just not blocking people. And I don't just mean like the players are missing blocks, but like there's just guys coming unblocked. And it seems like the routes are just not what they need to be. And just on top of that too, the personnel just wasn't that good. I think lazy people are like, oh, well, it's USC. He had a lot of talent. Not really, though. I mean, Brendan Rice is a middle-round receiver. Taj Washington's a decent little slot college player that, you know, could be an interesting day 3 draft pick. The offensive line was terrible. And like I said, I don't think Lincoln and or Cliff did a good job schematically for making up for some of those player deficiencies. So, sure, did Caleb Williams play incredible football down the stretch last year? No. But I think the idea that he fell off a cliff too is just not true. He had to do more, and it led him to chasing plays, I think. And by the way, what I didn't mention there too is that the defense was giving up 50 points a game. This is a rare situation, Coach T, regardless of can Shane Waldron be as Andy Reid, where the structure in place will actually be better right away going into a number 1 pick situation than what a typical cushy college situation would be.
Yeah, so you mentioned the part of it, the film part that I do. That's why I want to focus back and not get into the pink nails and all that other stuff.
I'm with you, man.
My eyes are laser focused, and this is why I'm ready for the season to start, because then I get to do what I really do. Really laser focus in on what Shane Waldron is doing, how he's choosing to utilize him, approaching his development. And by development, I mean, how is he ramping him up into this offense? Because we never quantify that in the media and say, what is development? Development is how he's systematically installing the offense over the course of the first season, that part of it. And then the biggest part, ignoring, well, I do pay attention to the fact that Lincoln Riley, you know, what he was trying to do at USC, but understanding that my biggest question for Caleb really as a player is understanding the RPO air raid system is not what he's going to do with Shane, right? And how does he make the transition as well? All that kind of meshes together, because in the air raid RPO systems, he's getting rid of the ball 1-2 read, or that's built in the system. It's 1-2 read, check down, or take off and run. So all those highlight plays everybody's looking at, that's what the system is. Like, if you watch every USC quarterback before that and Oklahoma quarterback before that, and the ones that come after him, and that's also how college football is changing as well. It's going to be one of those things like that. So I know he experienced some freezing, but we're going to work through it. What are you making of Ryan Poles taking the swing for obviously this is the swing to me. It represents the swing for the Super Bowl, going with Caleb Williams. Like, what do you make of him just, choosing to move forward and really going for the Super Bowl? Like, how close is this roster to being a Super Bowl competitive team?
Well, what I make of the swing is, look, you could have kept it rolling with Justin, and this team's probably a playoff team next year with Justin. It probably is. Now, the NFC North is going to be tough, but I don't think the Bears felt that he made enough strides where they felt like they could get to a Super Bowl with him, especially considering you're going to have to pay him pretty soon. And so I think they felt like, okay, even if we reset and we don't get a major upgrade, like let's say Caleb Williams is exactly as productive as Justin. Well, you get 3 more years of that, right? Like you just get more time to go trade for a Keenan Allen and potentially extend him. Like, it would be hard to extend Keenan Allen if Justin was still here and you're thinking you're going to have to pay him big money. You could go get maybe another pass rusher at the trade deadline this year if you feel like you're a pass rusher away from being a big-time contender. Like, the rookie quarterback that, even if it's not a star, but it's just a quality starter like Brock Purdy in San Francisco, it just gives you so much roster flexibility. And then on top of that, I do think they feel like Caleb Williams is special. Now, that doesn't mean it's going to be a guarantee. And yeah, to your point, like those Lincoln Riley offenses, a lot of the time they kind of are one read and, go make something happen. I also think part of that is they're spreading people out 5 wide, so you're getting a lot of one-on-one protection up front. And a more pro-style offense with Shane Waldron, getting to the second read and third read, you're going to have a little more time to do that than you are in that college air raid offense. So I think just schematically it'll be built in for him to get into that. Now, obviously, he's going to have to learn and be patient and sit in the pocket for that extra half second and deliver the football. Like, we don't know for sure how that's going to look, but I do think you do see enough of it on tape where he does stand in there and get to that second, third read. Does it happen a ton? No, but it's also not a Malik Willis situation where if the first read isn't there, you can see him like freak out. He's like, I'm just going to go make something happen. And he could do that at the college level because he's the best athlete on the field. And it's a little harder at the NFL level. So I think that's what I make of the swing is, I think they do feel like it's an upgrade, but also even if it's not a major upgrade, if it's a minor one, they can continue to add to this roster because what Ryan Poles has done better than anything else is just keep them flexible salary cap wise. Like that's been a really impressive thing that he's done of doing the quick teardown, which sucked for Justin, which Poles admitted, like, look, like when I came in here, like I basically could give him no talent in that 2022 year, which that sucks for Justin. I've said that it's not fair, but it also was the right move from Poles because you just had aging vets that weren't in a win now window anymore. So he kind of had to do it. And now you've got this young roster. He's hit on a lot of players. He's missed on a couple, the Claypool thing, Valus, those were a couple of bad moves, but I'd say he's hit a lot more than he's missed. I think the defense is close to Super Bowl ready right now. Now, maybe you're one more impactful defensive lineman away, but if this offense is top 15 this year, even top 20, I'm expecting playoffs. I don't think a Super Bowl is that realistic this year, but let's say at the end of this year, you're a 9-10 win team, you maybe get to the divisional round, and Caleb Williams is at least above average, you're feeling like going into 2025, this thing really could take off. Like, I would not be surprised if a year from now, a lot of the offseason headlines are trendy Super Bowl pick, Chicago Bears. Like, I think that's a very realistic possibility 12 months from now. I think you got to be thinking, okay, let's do what the Texans did last year. Let's get into the playoffs. Let's win a playoff game, get that experience, feel good about the quarterback, and then build off of that and really open that window starting in 2025.
Yeah, so we're totally aligned on that. I think if he was going to make this swing, I was concerned about it at first. We pretty much focused on maybe building, having another year to build a roster around Justin. But again, I think the way he's approached it, if he can have a good draft this year, then we can definitely, like I said, make that division round playoff run. And then perhaps with those 8 picks next year, then you can make your final swing and hopefully put this roster over the edge where you're picking from luxury versus, out of necessity. But you also made mention of Ryan Poles making mention of the runway himself, right? He like you said, he said, hey, it sucks, but this gives me more runway to do different things with the roster and so on and so forth. So that part of it I'm empathetic towards. And I said this on the show, everybody's individual sensitivities around Justin Fields will kind of hopefully die with time. But I want to talk about the P. Diddy of this whole situation, Matt Eberflus, right? Because how does he come out of this situation unscathed? I don't know. Obviously,
it's a fair question.
Two bad coaching hires at coordinator, a few different bad coaching moves during the game. I'm calling him the P. Diddy of this situation because how does he come out of this situation unscathed, in your opinion?
Yeah, look, I think a lot of people have questioned Poles and moving on from Fields. I don't. I think he made the right move there. Like we've discussed that ad nauseum. But if you want to question him keeping Matt Eberflus and him kind of not getting scapegoated over the last 2 years, that is a completely fair and valid question. Now, I think for 2 reasons he's still this coach. One, Poles clearly sees things in him that people on the outside don't. I think we started to see a glimmer of what part of that is, and that I think I do have to give him credit for this. Players seem to like him. Like Cole Kmet hops on CHGO and he's like, yeah, he's got our back. We really like him. Like you see Brisker and those defensive guys rallying with him. You see it on the sidelines in this game. Brisker and him seem to have a tight relationship. Montez Sweat. So, for a guy that seems kind of bland and corny at times, the players do seem to like him. So I think that's part of it. Ryan Poles has mentioned that. Something that people don't talk about enough is how he's able to communicate and connect to players, which if for a while and still to an extent question because he's so brutal with the media. Although I will say late last year, he started to get more comfortable, and maybe he got more comfortable because he got assurances he was going to be back. That's kind of my theory on it. But it's completely fair. Like I would have fired him. I've been on record saying that. Now, if you aren't going to fire him, I think they did a pretty good job with the offensive staff. But it is totally valid to be like, yo, if you're going to blame Justin Fields and Luke Getsy and all these people and act like Flus is blameless is BS, I agree with you. I don't think that's fair at all. And people are like, well, what about the defense? Well, he's not a defensive coordinator. He's a head coach. I get he calls the defense, but he can go be the DC anywhere. Like plenty of teams would hire him for that role, but you don't get to be the head coach and just be like, well, my defense is good. Nothing else matters for what I'm doing here. No, that's not how it works. So I definitely think he still has a lot to prove. I think things went better last year, but he also cost them at least 2 games with decisions he made last year, if not 3. So, yeah, I think if anyone should be heavily criticized this year, don't look at the rookie quarterback. Look at the head coach. Like he still has a lot to prove.
That's the part that you nailed it right there. I think, I want to be clear, like if fans, our followers want to know, people, fans of the show, or people that are new to the show want to know what I'm going to laser focus on, I'm a laser focus on all the things except Caleb. To be honest with you, perfectly honest, he's the newest person to the equation. All the people that have had shots at their job prior to Ryan Poles, he's going to be judged very, very harshly on this roster. Matt Eberflus, he's going to be judged very harshly, and to no fault of their own, the coordinators, I'm you know what I'm saying? I'm on their head no matter what happens. Pause, no Diddy. But I'm going to be on top of it to make sure that, you know what I'm saying, once again, we don't have another scenario where we set a quarterback up for failure, and also be able to document as to, the reason as to why or why it isn't working. So I'm not going to change it with all this, internet and technical issues we're having to have you longer than expected. But I want to ask you this because, in the 17, 18 game season, Caleb only needs to pass for about 250 yards or average about 250 yards per game throughout the season, I believe, to surpass a 4,000 yard passing mark. What some milestones that you think he needs to hit in terms of yards, TDs, or something like that to get that above average grade or yardage thing?
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't like setting the expectation of 4,000 yards. I mean, I still think that's a tough number to hit, especially for this franchise, considering no one's ever done it. I think he needs to be above 3,500 though, because he's not going to give you the running Justin does.
Right.
He'll run some. I think 300-400 yards is probably realistic there. But like if he throws for between 35 and 3,500, 4,000, and he's in the 20s. Like, give me a 2-to-1 touchdown interception ratio, 22 touchdowns, 10, 12 picks. I'd be cool with that. Like,
right.
I think he could surpass all that. I just don't want to. I think what you're seeing from Bears fans now is like, well, if you're going to move on from Justin, this guy better be unbelievable right away. And it's like, I get that mindset because of the emotions involved, but like, it's still a rookie.
Backlash.
Like, it's still a rookie. Like, now. Yeah. I think for a rookie, the expectation should be high with the infrastructure in place. Right. Ryan Pohl said it himself. There is not a better receiver he could have added to help a rookie quarterback. So if you're going to put that out there as the GM of this team, like, that should raise the expectation. But I'm not going to sit here and be like, he needs to break Andrew Luck's rookie passing yards of 4,300, whatever it was. So, yeah, give me 3,500 plus. If it's 4,000, I think we're going to be popping champagne. But yeah, like, be 63+%, 3,500 plus, 20 something touchdowns, less than 15 picks. Like, I think we'd all be pretty happy with that if we're being a fair and realistic viewer of this situation.
Gotcha. What do you do at number 9? That's going to be the mystery question going into the draft.
I think I've come to the conclusion if one of the 3 receivers is there, I'm still going in that direction. I just think they're too talented. If they're gone, that's where I have to think about it more. I mean, the wild card in all this is Braxton Jones. Like, if Joe Alt is there, or if they really like Olu or the Fuaga kid, the only question I have with Fuaga, the Oregon State guy, is can he play left tackle? Do you kick Darnell Wright out there, who played some left tackle at Tennessee, but was clearly a better right tackle in college? That's a tricky one, but I actually thought Fuaga's tape was better than Olu's last year, but Olu's a good option. If Alt is there and the receivers are gone, that's probably where I would go. I think Alt had the best tape of any tackle last year. He's a plug-and-play day one starting left tackle. I think he's a clear upgrade right away. But the good news is you have Braxton. You know he's going to give you average to above average play. So, I'll say it like this without dragging on too long. If one of the receivers is there, Marvin, Neighbors, or Adunze, that's an automatic trigger pull for me. If not, and Alt is there, I would do that. If Alt is also gone, which that scenario is there, quarterbacks, the 3 receivers, and Alt could all be gone, then it's some kind of combination of one of the other tackles, edge, or trade down. If there's a blue chip player on their big board at 9, just take them. That's kind of where I'm at. Like,
best player available.
Just get a dude. Like, the one exception might be if it's one of the corners, because you don't need a corner. Like, I think need has to come into play at least a little. Like, if Quinyon Mitchell's in the blue chip category for them, I probably wouldn't do that. But that's probably the only one I'd pass on. Like, if 1 or 2 blue chip guys are left when you pick at 9, just take them. If 3 plus are there, maybe you trade down a couple spots, still get one of them. But the good news is I think the Keenan Allen move gave them options. Like, they don't have to get a receiver there now. I felt like before they almost had to. Now they don't. If they do, I think it's awesome. There's good tackles. I'm sure you agree. This tackle class is awesome. Like,
yeah, I like this tackle class. I like your take on Fuaga. First of all, I got a chance to meet the family, got a chance to meet the player, man.
Oh, nice.
Like, that's a dude, man. That's a dude.
You think he can play left?
I believe he can play either tackle spot. I think in this, Kerry Joseph, where we at the Senior Bowl, talked a lot about them running a lot of mid zone versus inside zone, mid zone scheme. And what you do with the mid zone scheme, inside zone scheme, you try and move your bigger players to the inside and get more athletic on the outside. So if they do indeed go that way, I wouldn't be surprised for them. I wouldn't be surprised if they took Fuaga and moved him to the outside and kept Darnell and Fuaga. By the way, when I asked Talise Fuaga about that situation without any prompting, he was like, he kind of cut me off. He said, "Man, I would love to play next to Darnell Wright. I'm a huge Darnell Wright fan." And I was like, "Hey, man, hopefully they can make it happen for you." But yeah,
he's
compared
compared himself to Wright. He said that at the combine too, that like Wright was like the guy. He was like, I think someone asked him, "Who do you view yourself?" He's like, Darnell Wright. I watch him a ton, love his game. So if you think if the Bears think he can play left tackle, I think he's better than Olu. At least he was last year. I think Olu's a good player, but I think Fuaga is more powerful and he's just as athletic.
Yeah, I like to take. I have concerns with Alt's a little bit with his he's a big dude. But if I have to put the tape next to each other, it's the athleticism, the difference in athleticism between Fuaga and Joe Alt, and the versatility, things that you can do with him. Like you mentioned, in the quick game, having to tackle that quick, that nimble out there in the quick game. You're talking about running those quick screens and having a guy out there that can run, toss sweet game. You can add so much dimensions to your game.
You know they're going to do that.
You said what now?
You know they're going to do that in this offense too. They're going to try and get on the perimeter.
Yeah, it gives you options. So, but I think the biggest part that I heard from what you had to say is, we are in a place right now already where if you look at it, number 9, it's really a luxury pick already. It's, hey, you take the best player available as long as it makes sense. Like you said, if it's a corner, it's a luxury pick. Even a tight end. People brought up the Brock Bowers situation.
I'd probably still trade down in that scenario.
It's luxury now. I wouldn't go for a tight end when you can trade down, get picks. You don't need one, or a corner. So if the best player available is a tight end, a corner, absolutely trade down and keep things moving along. How about on the defense? Because the take for me is, I believe to support Caleb Williams in his first year. This is another part. I'm going to be looking at play style, not so much the results, but the play style. How Shane is calling games. Is it ball control? Is it time of possession? Because I believe running the ball and playing great defense is what's going to give Caleb the best platform to launch from for his career. What about this defense? And can they be dominant with maybe perhaps one more guy that's disruptive up front?
I mean, we saw flashes of dominance the last 6 or 8 weeks, really once Sweat got going. It was kind of that second game they took off. That first one, he was like, he just got there. I think it was the Saints game. He didn't have a huge impact in that game. But every game after that, he definitely did. I think they can. I mean, they showed last year. I mean, they were undisputedly a top 10 defense after he got there. I think one more legit pass rusher makes them a top 5 defense, at least on paper. I think the one thing that's going to be interesting is, can they replicate the volume of takeaways they got the final stretch of last season? Because it was almost an abnormal amount of interceptions that they got. Now, I don't think it was a fluke or anything, but I don't know if you're just banking on that if you're the Bears either. Like, I know that's something they preach, taking the football away, the corny hits principles. We all laugh at it, but clearly it happened the second half of last season. I think if you get, even if it's just like an above average second pass rusher, and look, maybe Dexter's that guy. Maybe they feel like Dexter is that player. So, they need to find a second dude with Sweat, which is why edge at 9 is still an option. If they want to get a Jared Verse or Latu, maybe you trade down a few spots for Latu. He's got medical questions. Top 10 might be a tick rich for him. Obviously, Turner's there as well. I feel like Turner's probably going to go to Atlanta at 8, but we'll see what happens there. there's really not any other holes, though. I mean, your off-ball linebackers can all play. You're 3 deep there. You may even be 4 deep if Sewell takes a step forward in year 2. I think these corners are awesome. We know about Jalen. I thought Tyreek Stevenson the second half of last year was the best rookie corner in the NFL. I think they upgraded with Byard at safety. They don't need him to be an all-pro like he was a few years ago, but I think that's an upgrade over Eddie, especially health-wise. Byard's never missed a game in his career. Brisker, I don't think he's ever going to be an all-pro, but I think he's a culture guy. He's a leader. Eberflus said at the owners' meetings that he was the guy that communicated to go work out together this offseason. So you like what he brings. So, and obviously Sweat, it's about getting one more dude on that defensive line, and whether that's one of the young guys emerging or adding someone in the draft, or maybe getting someone post free agent signing, if anyone's still out there, at least for this year. Kind of what they tried with Ngakoue last year, but hopefully someone more impactful. Yeah, I mean, I think this defense is very close, and that Flus does deserve credit for that. Again, it's not the full picture because he's the head coach, but the defense, if they can continue that momentum and continue it, maybe with one more piece here, I mean, it's going to be good. And I agree. Like, you should not view this as, hey, Caleb, go win us games. Be efficient. Take care of the ball. Right. Do your creation when it makes sense. And hey, let's go win these games 24-20. And when it calls for it, go give us 30 points. But that should not be the expectation every week.
Year one. Listen, I don't want to chance it any longer. I got some great dialogue back and forth between this question and answer, and much to the chagrin of people in the comments. I know exactly who I have on the show and who I invited on the show. I know exactly what the takes are. I watched the show. We've gone back and forth in the comments on his show, and not in a bad way. We just, what I'm saying, we've had a relationship, internet-based relationship for the last 2 years. So I appreciate you stopping by, hanging out with us, man. Again, always a fan of the show, man, and keep doing great things, man. And congratulations once more on young PJ making his appearance, man. I'm always excited about family building and all that good stuff. So
yeah,
all good stuff.
Sure.
I appreciate you stopping by, man.
I appreciate that. And hey, man, let's do it again after the draft if you want. I'd love to come back and talk about what they did after the draft. Maybe I think rookie minicamp's usually that week after, so maybe sometime after that we can chop all that stuff up. So would love to do it again.
That's what it's all about, and that's what we're doing with these interviews, guys. We're building relationships so we can have, some of our guests like Harrison come back and be regulars on the show and give their perspective. Because a lot of times you do the hosting, man, you don't get a chance to really sit back and give your answers and thoughts on a lot of these things. So I've been on the other side of that, man. So I appreciate that for you. I won't chance it and go into the DM section like we normally do, because until we move into the new studio, man, it's going to be. Appreciate you, man. We're gonna move on, and good luck, man, with the season training camp, man. If I see you up there, let's have a beer or something like that, and link up on the backside. So for myself, Coach T, Chicago Bears 360, that's Harrison Graham. I'm gonna talk to y'all, and we're gonna see y'all next time. Bear down.
Bear down.